What up, though? This your brother Mike X.
My killers got them suits on like followers of Farrakhan.
And welcome to the 17 Winners Podcast, the realest podcast in the game.
I'm the jig in my city. Yeah. I'm not saying they not good. Nah, I'm just saying I'm the realest. Facts.
To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this call, hang up or press 1. To prevent call, your current balance is $36.26. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using GTL.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, black man. What's going on with you?
Elevation, brother. Walking on water.
Yes,
Walking
sir.
on water. Yourself?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All praise be to Allah. Same here. Same here. It's good to hear from you, brother. So, as you know, we're doing my first episode of my podcast, 17 Winners Podcast. It's actually the reboot. And before I do anything, I'd like to say this podcast, the 17 Winners, represents the 15 years that I did inside plus 2 years on parole for the Michigan Department of Corrections. It's 17 winners because I started my bid in the wintertime and I finished it in the wintertime. With that being said, I represent in this podcast for those who have been to the penitentiary and those who some can, some can't get out here into the world, the free world, and do the things that they were actively doing inside the penitentiary to change their lives and change the communities that they destroyed or that they helped or were a product of destroying. With that being said, this is a special podcast episode with a brother who is currently being held against his will with the Michigan Department of Corrections, a brother that is particularly special in my life, the Brother Dyson X. Appreciate you calling in, brother. I know the time is limited, so I'm going to kind of run through this podcast stuff for you because I really want you to be able to get your message out. So first and foremost, of course, I said your name, but give them a little background about yourself, bro. Who are you? What's your name? Where you come from? All of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, brother. And first and foremost, before I do that, I'd like to let you know, brother, that you are greatly appreciated. You know, it says in the scriptures, he who lends to the poor is favored or lends to God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's so powerful is in this situation that I currently find myself in, being physically incarcerated, I always tell the brothers that when you're in prison, you're the first one rejected and the last one protected. So when brothers return to society and think enough of us who they've left behind, still fighting and battling to obtain mercy, justice, and regain our physical freedom, it's always humbling that a brother would find enough value in us to reach back and want to save us, because so many, after the traumatic effects of being incarcerated has on the individual, once they get their physical freedom, they don't want to associate with prison in no way, shape, or form, right?
Right.
So I just wanted to give you a shout out just based on the type of character that you have and others like yourself that think enough of us that are still physically incarcerated to even reach back and give us these type of platforms where we can have a voice, wherein most times and oft times we're voiceless.
Yes,
so I
sir.
just want you to know, brother, you greatly appreciate it, you greatly love, and I pray that Allah continues to bless you for you being a blessing to me and innumerable others that's in my situation.
Yes.
Because contrary to popular belief, there are beautiful men and women that are physically incarcerated who were once liabilities in their community, but now they've grown in the knowledge of themselves and grown into their true character and their true greatness, and would be great assets if given the opportunity to return to society.
Facts.
My name is Brother Dyson X, formerly Dyson Slater. I was born and raised in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and in 1994, while intoxicated and narcotized, committed a senseless act that placed me in prison up under the hefty weight of a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. A sentence that led me to growing into the man that I was created to be, due to the fact that, and bear witness to the actual facts, from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad when he said Islam comes when all else fails.
And all else
But when
fails.
you've been told by the judicial system that you've been given life without the possibility of parole, believe me, all else has failed you at that point.
Yes, sir.
So reaching for something firm to hold on to and seeking to find the one that has power over all circumstances, situations, and conditions, I humbled myself and I sincerely sought God in my situation. And in sincerely seeking him, I found the Nation of Islam, and I found the actual facts and the supreme wisdom and the truth given to us by God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
And in doing so, since 1994, I've been evolving into my greatness and tapping into the God within myself to be an asset not only to myself, but an asset to my nation in prison and beyond these prison gates and these prison bars. So I've had the honor and privilege of soldiering with some beautiful brothers in here, like yourself, black man,
Yes.
who I believe I've played a small role
Man,
through the
large
grace
role.
of Allah
Yes,
in
sir.
helping them grow into who they truly are and who Allah truly created us to be. And that is a perfect reflection of himself. And that's why Master Farad Muhammad said he came to make us like unto himself. Not gods with the lowercase g, but gods with the uppercase G. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Growing into our supremacy.
Affirmative.
So that's who I am in a nutshell.
Man, that's a
15
big
minutes
nutshell.
telephone call. That's a big nutshell. Absolutely, brother. All praise is due to Allah.
It's
So, all praise is due to Allah. And one thing that the reason why I wanted to make sure that I let you know how you appreciate it, I hope that we can motivate and inspire others to get involved in life and not look at life as a spectator sport, right?
Right.
Wherein all we do is sit back and complain about the things that we see going on in our world. And it is our world, right?
Yes, sir.
Remember now I say, whose world is this? The world is yours. And he was actually and factually correct. The world is yours. But many of us go through life like it's a spectator sport from the vantage point of we see injustices being served and we feel impotent and powerless to change that injustice into a justice, right? And we feel like, oh, that's just the way it is and nothing can be done to bring about the change that we desire. However, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us the only thing that keeps us from success is our own feet. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So, if it's my own feet that's keeping me from success, that means that I have the ability
With my
to
own
change
feet.
those things that I see that are erroneous in the world and make them better.
Yes, sir.
But if I come from a people who have been brutalized and suffer from brain damage, 467 years of brain damage ever since we were brought over here on the slave ship Jesus in 1555, it's hard to have confidence
Yes, sir.
in your ability when you've been told for 467 years that you're inferior,
Yes, sir.
that you have no value, that your people have never done anything to contribute to the progress and the advancement of society in the world, right?
Right.
So that's why the beauty of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as represented to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is the Jesus in our midst, are so necessary for us to grow into who we truly are, so we'll see our value. And in recognizing our value, it causes us to catapult into participation in life where we know we have the power to create heaven here on earth in fulfillment of the Lord's Prayer. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Man, you hear this
Yeah,
brother
let your
blowing?
will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
This brother
sir.
blowing, and I ain't even had to ask him a question yet.
Oh, praise due
It's
to Allah.
interesting,
Yes,
beloved,
sir.
though, that you said that you spoke about the way that the Nation of Islam impacted you, and whether or not you had a small impact on anybody, because realistically, you probably had the greatest impact on my decisions at that time. Mind you, I went to prison at 18 years old. I just had a conversation with my co-defendant, my brother, yesterday, and we were talking about that. And I asked him about, him making his transitions, and he said that, I really didn't make a transition until this time. Until then, I didn't even believe that I was a criminal, or I was what the judge said that I was, because the judge labeled him or us a menace to society during sentencing.
Yes, sir.
And my perspective was different than my brother's. My perspective was, I actually believed everything that I was told about myself. Like, I spent my first 5 years in prison on purpose being a fool, on purpose trying to show that I was tough and that I didn't need nothing. And it wasn't until 5 years in that I started looking to find out what it looks like to become a man. And in all of the examples around me, you were the strongest example of manhood that I saw. You had the strongest level of discipline. You were the most intelligent, yet you had the most respect on the prison yard on the back 40. And with all of those things being, it was like, damn, you don't have to be this to be respected. You don't have to be in the mix or in the streets or doing the negative thing to be respected, because the gangsters respect you more than they respected the other gangsters when you walked into the child hall, when you walked onto the yard. It was like, you know what I mean? So it was inside of that I was able to see you being an example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because when he spoke, or when you spoke at service, I heard him, if that makes sense.
All praise to Allah.
And I was able to see him as an example in front of me, because, that's what our job is. I believe that that's what I show for the younger guys, that, I look like them, and so that they are able to respond to me. Because of course we know that we're supposed to look unalike, so I don't look exactly like them, but I look like what they are. You know what I mean? I resemble them. I remind them of them, but like a shinier version, I think. And that was what my attraction was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you had a great impact on me, and not even because you actually ever spoke to me about coming over to service or joining or anything. I think I was actually ushered in by other brothers who were not even going to service or active. They were telling me the information that I needed, but the example that I was seeing were you and the men that were following closely by you. And I used that as my example.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With that being said,
that right there, brother, is inspiring and motivating to me to continue to do what I'm doing, because sometimes you feel as though this work is in vain. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that whenever you're teaching and the students seem like they're not interested in what you're teaching, it kills the desire of the teacher to teach. So it's one thing to teach just for the sake of teaching, but that shouldn't be our desire. And our Supreme Wisdom lesson says that the desire of your teacher is for you to set yourself in heaven at once, right?
Right.
So you want to see the students benefiting from the wisdom that you're giving them in their lives by applying to their lives the lessons and the principles that you're handing over to them. Yes. So your evolution into the greatness of yourself, as you continue to evolve into even further greatness, now that you're physically free, that's just a bearing of witness to the power of the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad up under the tutelage of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, right?
Yes.
And the thing that's deep is, once you tapped into and recognized your value, you knew that you had the ability to make this world a better place. And that's the power of knowing that you created in the image and likeness of God. That's the power of recognizing that you created in the image and likeness of God. That's the power of knowing that you are direct descendant of the originator of the heavens and the earth. When you know that, your swag is totally different, bro.
Totally different.
And when you talk about Master Farad Muhammad, right, and you talk about being respected on the back 40, in the midst of killers. You know what I mean? The thugs and the gangsters. Master,
you have 1 minute remaining.
With the black bottom Detroit by himself. You know good well when you go up in somebody else's hood by yourself, the first thing they say is, man, who he with?
Yeah, where you from?
Hey, man, you know him? You know what I mean? And if ain't nobody vouch for you, they at you. He walked fearlessly, and we reflections of him. So we walk through life fearlessly. We opposite, so we attractive. But the power that we show amongst those who are quote unquote killers, gangsters, thugs, criminals, we show a power of love that's opposite, that makes us attractive, and the respect that we have for our community and our people makes them love us, regardless of the state and the condition that they in. Yes, sir, brother. Yes, sir. It's be a 20-minute break. You know, they got that on the phone, but okay. I will call back, brother, and I'm enjoying this, man. And I want to thank you again for even giving me this foundation and this platform to even speak on the beauty of the teachings, the beauty of the incarcerated man and woman.
Thank you for using GTA.
Welcome back, Black.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So I guess we could pick right up where we left off, man. So I have the podcast broken down into a couple of segments, right?
Yes, sir.
Those two segments are the back 40 and lockdown, right? So this part of the podcast, I'm going to do it a little different since you are still currently held within the confines of the penitentiary system. We're going to change it up a little bit.
Okay.
In this part of the show, we call the back 40. Now, if you've been to the penitentiary, you know the back 40 is a whole world back there. You see everything that happens in the world outside, inside, and a little bit more. It's just different circumstances. With that being said, we use this part of the show to talk about your perspective on that world. So, like I said, we're going to do it a little different this time because you actually can see that world. Where you at currently, Black?
Right now, I'm at Gus Harrison Correctional Facility in Adrian, Michigan. Yes, sir. I'm on the back 40 right now.
Right now.
On a row of, yes, sir, on a row of payphones, 5 phones, and you got my man with a boom box next to me. You hear the music in the background? You don't hear the lyrics?
I can't hear it coming through.
Okay. Then I got a brother on this side of me and a brother on the other side of me. You got brothers in the weight pit getting their money, working out. You got brothers on the bars. You got brothers shooting basketball. You got brothers over there by the urinal doing what they do. All type of madness going on the yard right now, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And of course, you always gonna have in the midst of the darkness a blessing of light, which comes from the civilized that's on the yard, that's teaching and training as well. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you up on the brother Kwame Kilpatrick and that push for the redemption movement that he gonna have on April 3rd as soon to return back to society. So he was talking and speaking on local news recently about how the difference in the federal penitentiary is they have all type of incentives to take programs while they're in the federal penitentiary, because by taking those programs, they pick up skills that could be useful when they return to society to kill the recidivism rate, as well as being productive while they're incarcerated. So they incentivize to get involved in those type of programs because not only do they pick up those talents and skills, they also grow in responsibility and discipline, and that type of character and habits transition over into society so they can be productive citizens that's getting gainful employment by joining on to the workforce out there and being law-abiding citizens. However, he was pointing out the difference in the state prisons in Michigan is we have no programming whatsoever in here.
At all.
So you just sit here doing a vast majority of your time without any programs being offered to you to correct the behavior that they said was erroneous that put you in prison in the first place. So you go back to society with the same mindset you had when you came in here, unless you go ahead and self-impose rehabilitation on yourself.
Actively find and search out your own rehabilitation.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, you did several years in here just showing and proving that you were everything that they said that you were, that didn't have any of value whatsoever and was on a negative level.
Right.
However, in your own desire to seek betterment and improvement of yourself, you found the nation.
Yes.
But what if you hadn't had that aha moment?
Right.
You know what I mean? What if the light bulb would have never went off? They don't care if you sit around here and be the most non-productive person in the world, and they're going to send you back out to society in hopes of you coming back up in here and they really desire that you take somebody out on your way back up in here. You know what I mean? Killing two birds with one stone. So, yeah, rehabilitation in the state of Michigan truly is self-imposed.
Yeah,
so, if you could have your listeners seek out that information concerning April 3rd, they're supposed to have those petitions at different churches. So hopefully we have an outpouring of support and people make it their business to get out and sign that petition, man, because that right there will transform the judicial system and the Michigan Department of Corrections in the twinkling of an eye if they reinstate the good time, you know?
Yes, sir.
And that's something that we're pushing right now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You right on point, because I was literally going to ask what matters to you. What were the things that you felt like you needed to get off of your chest? Because, like I say, I have a format in general, but with the circumstances that you're under right now, I just want to be a voice for you and let you be able to just say whatever you feel like you need to get heard right now. You know what I mean? So take a couple minutes and just give them what you want to give them.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. My main thing, I think I touched on it for the most part in the last conversation.
Okay.
There's no one in this world today that is satisfied with the condition of the world other than the oppressor, because he's eating off the exploitation and the oppression and suppression and depression of others, right?
Right.
And if the vast majority of people are dissatisfied with the condition of the world, we have to realize we have the power to change the world. Not just sit back and complain about the things that you see that are wrong with the world, but get involved, even if it's not dealing with helping those who are physically incarcerated. Help the homeless. You know what I mean?
Yes,
help the hungry. Get involved in life and improve the world by improving yourself and improving the condition of the world around you. It could be local. It could be state. It could be national. It could be international. It could be global. But my thing is, we all have the power to make this world a better place. And the thing that I find most profound about life is we were brought into existence with the ability to solve the problems that the world and life presents. So with that knowledge that can produce these solutions, I love when Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And the problem that I have with most people is they believe that this is the way it's always been and there's nothing you can do about it, so therefore it's always going to be like this. And that's foolish.
Correct.
There's a Latin phrase called vox populi, vox dei. Vox populi, vox dei means the voice of the people is the voice of God. So, if the voice of the people is the voice of God, then that would mean that if God can do everything and God has power over all things, then that would mean that if the voice of the people is the voice of God, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said our power is in our unity. So if the people unite with one voice to produce change,
that's God's
we
work.
can produce that change, brother. We can produce that change. And that's the point that I would like to leave with you. They closing this yard right now, man.
Yes, sir.
She waving her arms and telling me yard closed and all this. So
Yes, sir.
I have to leave you with that. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I love you, and I will be back in contact, brother.
Yes, sir. I love you, brother. Stay safe in there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You do the same out there. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for using GTL.
And with that being said, I'd like to conclude the podcast with the final segment called Lockdown. In this part of the show, we call Lockdown. Now, during lockdown time, you know, this is the time where it's the end of the night and you only dealing with yourself. You ain't on the yard no more talking and lying about who you was in the street and gambling and working out and playing. This is when it's just you and you. At that time, that's when you got to deal with the real in the penitentiary. So I like to use this part of the show to give some like final words of wisdom. Yeah, man, after listening to the brother, he said a couple of things that really stuck out to me, man. And one of them was actually living life, doing something, not just sitting around letting life happen to you. But the other thing was that every single one of us has the ability to make a change in the world that we want to see happen. That brother affected me in the penitentiary. Therefore, he was affecting change right where he is. Right in the penitentiary, he's making men or showing men the example of what being a better man is, and men are walking away from the penitentiary with that in their mind, with that as their example, and going and living like that. And with that being the case, I'm able to now affect change in my community. So I think the biggest thing to take from that is to actually live and to actually put your foot forward and do something. That being said, appreciate y'all support, appreciate y'all tuning in to 17 Winners. See you next time.